Good evening. Want to welcome you guys back to the Conversation 9-8. Got another episode of it, and truly excited and happy about today's episode, like I am every week. But this week, very happy because I'm very excited about the topic. I'm looking forward to the topic, looking forward to the conversation on this. So, again, man, let me know where you're tuning in from, and we're gonna get right on to it. But I do appreciate it. It means a lot every week, and I thank you guys for your continued support. Make sure you share this. Let people know. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and let me know that you're in the building. And hey, this is a conversation. So this is where we'll sit up and we'll chat it up, talk it up, and looking forward to the dialogue. So feel free to chime in. And again, very looking forward to the conversation tonight because this is a good one. This is a good one. And one that I feel that will intrigue a lot of dialogue and it'll just be good conversation. But hey, we've been going strong. Episode 138, 138 episodes, been going strong for a while, and I'm grateful for that. I definitely look forward to it every week, and God has truly been a blessing to keep me with the topics and things that we've been having. But again, sharing this, and we're gonna get right on to it. Thank you guys so much for rocking with your boy. I say it every week, but I really mean it. It means a lot, and I don't take it for granted. I do not take it for granted. But episode 138, 138 episodes. As I think back on it, and that's the initial one and where it started. I'm grateful to be here where it's at, and continue to look forward to having this conversation every week. So we're going to go ahead on and just really get started with it. We're going to talk about it's not always about you getting your way or what you want in relationships. And that's just what it is. It's not always about you. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, you shouldn't consider yourself, because guess what? When we enter into relationships, there's a mutual expectation to receive something from it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm talking about is not always about you and you getting your way in relationships. And I think a lot of times we don't realize how selfish we are. And we don't realize that a lot of in relationships, we oftentimes feel that we give way more than what we're actually giving. And it can cause a drain, because then it can become about you and just you in a relationship, when in reality it's not about you. And this is not just an intimate relationship. This is any relationship, because we are social beings. And when you have more than one person involved, you have to be considerate of the other person. You just have to be, to have an effective relationship. What's going on, Laramie? How you doing? Good evening. Good evening to you, brother. What's up, Robert? How you doing? Good evening to you. Good evening to you. But yeah, it's not just about you. And I know that's hard. I know that's hard for some people to come to grips with, but it is not just about you. Why? Why you say why it's not just about you? Well, it's not about you in relationship, because the reality is most of the time we overvalue what we bring to a relationship. We overvalue the stuff that we feel like we do or what we bring to a relationship. And we overvalue because we look at it from the perspective of, well, what we are doing is good enough. But we always look at the other. We tend to look at the other person as if they're not doing what they need to do, or they're not meeting the mark. And a lot of that can very well be true. And a lot of that can be you just haven't truly communicated what you need from them. But don't come in and with the mindset and with an arrogant ego as if you're meeting the mark, when most of the time we overvalue what we bring. Oh, I'm a good man, I'm a good woman, I'm a good partner, I'm a good this, that, and the third. But are you really? Are you really meeting those expectations? Are you really meeting the things in which you think that you are? Because if we really examine it, most of the time we're not meeting it. We're not. We're not meeting it. We're not on the level where we think that we are. And we'll go in and it becomes about us. It becomes about us. This is something that most people don't think about, but most of the times when we go into relationships, we go into a relationship with the ideology that it's going to be unconditional, or we have expectations to receive unconditional, but we ourselves have conditions in which we are willing to give or do certain things. Now, if it is built on reciprocation, then that's not an issue, because there's not, the reality is we all are conditional to a certain extent. But the point that I'm saying is many of us, we go into relationships and we don't even have the mindset to reciprocate. We go into a relationship with a mindset of what can I get from this? And it's based off conditions, and we have conditions set based off of, well, I would do this when they do this, or when they prove this to me. Well, what about what are you giving? What are you actually proving yourself? What are you actually bringing to the table? Because most of the time we ain't bringing what we think we bringing. We really aren't. We aren't bringing what we think we bringing. We bring stuff. This is what we do. What we do bring is we bring a lot of baggage into relationships, and a lot of baggage can be a lot of things. It can be baggage from our unrealistic expectations that's developed in our childhoods from relationships that we've seen, or the relationships that we didn't see. Right? We a lot of times we go and we feel like that we go into relationships feeling like that relationship should compromise or make up for what we are lacking. And reality is we are the ones responsible for the baggage in which we bring in. We are the ones responsible for packing and unpacking it, because we packed it. No matter if you think you packed it or not, you packed it. So it's on you to unpack that. And the reason why it's on you to unpack that baggage is because the other person didn't do it. So guess what? You're trying to build. You can't build anything when you're dragging around all that extra weight and all that extra baggage. You got to sit down. You got to have the courage to look in there, take inventory, and start cleaning that stuff out on your own. That is on you. That is not on anybody else. That is on you. And when we talk about it, we say it's not always about you getting your way, right? We all want to get our way. We all want things to be favorable to us, and that's not a knock on anything. That's just a reality of that's just a human. I would tell you right now, it is a natural thing, right, to look out for you, right? But when we enter into a relationship, and it can be an intimate relationship, it can be a marriage, it can be a partnership, it can be work relationship. When we enter into these things, this relationship, right, we have to realize that it's not always about us. Sometimes it is about us, but it's not always about us. It's not always about you getting your way or what you want, because sometimes you're going to have to compromise. Because guess what? If you're always getting what you want in that relationship, have you ever considered about what the other person is getting? Or do you genuinely even care as long as you're getting what you want? And a lot of people have that mindset, and they think the other person is good, and the other person is really suffering in silence. They're suffering in silence, and guess what? The person that's always receiving don't even really care, because they're getting what they want. And the sad truth is, many people don't care about the other person in relationships. And the reason why is it is cool with them as long as things are favorable for them. As long as things are favorable in their favor and they're benefiting, they're getting what they want from the relationship. A lot of people will stay there and endure that and rock with that relationship, because guess what? They're benefiting from it. And they know that they have the advantage in the relationship. They don't know that they're the ones that are benefiting from it. They may be benefiting financially. They may be benefiting from it physically. They may be benefiting from it from an emotional standpoint. They may be benefiting from it from whatever benefit that they have, right? And they're looking at it from the perspective of they are benefiting from it. They honestly could care less about how it is making the other person feel, or what the other person have to sacrifice for they can benefit from it. And those people are selfish to their core. They're selfish. Those are some selfish people. And that's why I said it's not always about you getting what you want. It's not always about you getting what you want. What's going on, Portia? How you doing? What's going on? And this is a reality. This is a reality that we all need to face. You know, we all, and I said it before, we all have selfish tendencies. I'm telling you, it's natural to look out for us. And I would tell you, you have to be deliberate to be able to be considering other people, especially consistently in relationships, right? because naturally we want to look at what's the best deal for us or what we can get out of something. You know, that's what is a natural thing that occurs in our psyche, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're talking about partnering in a relationship, it should be mutually beneficial. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get your way, but it's not always about you getting your way. It's about what can you mutually bring to the relationship that both dual parties or all parties can mutually benefit from, right? I didn't say equitably. I said mutually. Mutually means they're getting some benefit out of it. And most of the times, if we sit back, we'll realize that a lot of the relationships are not mutual beneficial. They're not mutual. They're one-sided. They tend to be one-sided. They tend to be one-sided, and I don't care how you slice it. And the sad thing is, people know that many people know that some relationships that they have and they started they benefit the most from. But guess what? They're not going to come up and say, "Hey, I know that I'm getting over on this, or I know that this is benefiting me more than what somebody else." The sad thing is, a lot of them would begin to feel entitled, like they're supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be that way. You find this dynamic with kids. You find this dynamic with spouses. You find this dynamic a lot when somebody is the one that's receiving the most, and they begin to feel like they are entitled to receiving that. And then guess what? When it goes to have them having to be accountable or them having to pull more of the load, then they feel some type of way because they always got their way. And that's just being an adult. You have to grow up out of it. It's not just about you getting your way. It's not just about you getting your way. We're individuals. It should be mutually beneficial in relationships, period. It should be mutually beneficial. You know, we have, and I'm about to really go in because a lot of people don't like talking about it, but it is what it is. But we have relationships to where you got marriages where the man just take it for granted that the woman keep the house clean and do all of this stuff, and then you have the other side to where you have men in relationships get taken for granted because they pay all the bills and they do all this, that, and the third, right? And I'm generalizing, but I know that with that being said, there's a lot of people that take those things for granted. And the man pay the bills and doing all that and quote unquote being a provider. And guess what? When it's time, the women to do something, a lot of the women feel like they need to spend their money how they spend their money. But I'm like, dang, how is it mutually beneficial to the man? What are you really doing for the man? Now, if you work something out between you two and that's good for you guys, that's good. But what I'm saying, how is it mutually beneficial in those relationships? Because the man that always just taking for granted somebody doing something for him, or the woman taking for granted, in the end, somebody's gonna be burnt. Somebody's gonna be burnt, and somebody will be on the short end of the stick, right? And while the other person continue to benefit. And watch this. People in those relationships, there are people in relationships that will allow the other person to exhaust all, to burn themselves out, to run themselves in the ground, to meet their needs, while they themselves are inconsiderate or unwilling to even lift a finger to reciprocate or meet the needs of the other person. And these people know who they are, and they know this is the thing. They know they benefit from the relationship, but in their mind, what they do is they attempt to diminish what the person does in a way to justify them not doing what they know that they should be doing, right? And they have the ability to do it. They're just choosing not to reciprocate. And they're looking at it from how do they benefit from it, and they make decisions based off of how they benefit from it and could care less about how the other person can mutually benefit from that relationship. And we see that all the time. You know, and the other thing is we got to grow up, man. Many people have to just simply grow up, you know, because when you get to an age, especially when you should be responsible for yourself, right? Always going into something with a hustle mentality, always going in a relationship with something about what can you get out of it or what can you get over on somebody. You just need to grow up. That's simply just need to grow up. That's an immature way of thinking. That is a very self-centered, selfish, ego-filled way of thinking. what can you get out of a relationship? And it doesn't matter about even in an intimate relationship or whatever, because your motives will always come through, and people can always see your motives from a mile away. Even though you try to mask it, they can see it. They can see from this. Only thing you want is you just want people to do stuff for you so you can benefit from it. No matter what the narrative is behind it, that, oh, it's going to benefit everybody. No, it's about you. And guess what? You just need to grow up if that's how you think. Need to grow up, period. That's all what that is. You just need to grow up. It's no if, ands, or buts about it. There's no other dialogue, I would say, with that. Like that, you just need to grow up. And I say this, I've said this before, but you know, there's a major difference between being selfish and selfless, right? Sometimes it's you have to look out for yourself. And like I said before, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I am saying is there's something wrong with that when you have no balance with your approach to that. When you're always about you and it's never really about what is mutually beneficial to the other person. Because the same way you benefit for something, somebody else is paying the cost for you to benefit from it. So if you got that mindset, like you begin to get an entitled mindset, you're wrong. You're wrong. Appreciate what other people do for you. And a lot of that is stemmed in because people don't appreciate what other people do for them. They genuinely don't. They just take it for granted like they're supposed to. But when you genuinely appreciate what somebody do for you, it will naturally make you want to reciprocate back to what they're doing. You would naturally want to make sure that other person is benefiting from the relationship, right? And they're getting something that is equitable to them. And it's not equitable don't mean that it has to be the same thing. And that's and I want people to understand that. And this is the God honest truth. Equitable don't mean that it has to be the same thing. Equitable being mutually beneficial or equitable beneficial, a bit of being able to benefit from an equitable perspective in a relationship doesn't mean that you get one and one and it matches, right? No, because sometimes it can equal the same thing based off what the person needs. Because sometimes somebody may need money, the other person just may need support, the other person may need encouragement. It based off what you need in that situation. And are you willing to provide that? Or are you the one just looking for you to get what you want in that situation or in that relationship? Because many times that's what a lot of us do. We just want what we want. And like I said, it's not about you. It's not just about you in a relationship and you getting your way. Sometimes you need to sacrifice. Sometimes you need to consider the other person. You need to do that. It is imperative for a relationship to last, for the consideration of the other person to be at the utmost priority or forefront, right? Don't get caught up on where it's just about you, because this is where problems come in at. Problems come in when you begin to consider yourself and as if your needs are more than the other person, and you get in a mindset that you expect the other person to do more so that you can get what you can get. And I would say that that's wrong. That right there is dead wrong. It's dead wrong because guess what? If you aren't happy with the relationship, then why do you feel like you should continue to benefit from it when you're not willing to give what you know you're supposed to be giving to it? You should just, if you're not happy with the relationship, you should just walk away on your own dime and not expect other people to compensate for you so you can benefit from it. That's just what it is. That's a fact. What's going on now, Anthony? What's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. But yeah, that is so true. That right there is facts. That right there is factual. I don't care how you like it, how you slice it up, right? But when you start talking about beneficial relationships being beneficial, right? And we can talk about it. And most people, when you're talking about relationships being beneficial, right, mutually beneficial, and it's and person not getting it, it's not always about them. Most people automatically go to assume that you're speaking about an intimate relationship, right? But I'm talking about all relationships. I'm talking about a parent and child relationships. I'm talking about siblings relationships. I'm talking about intimate relationships. I'm talking about professional relationships. Any relationships that you're talking about, it's not always about you in those relationships. And if you're finding environments where everybody's always started to play this social politics and start to try to get things and maneuver things, and things can be that way, you'll find those environments very exhausting. And those relationships aren't adding value to your life. Any relationship that will add value to your life, right, is mutually beneficial. It is mutually beneficial. You would not feel like you are at a deficit in a relationship that add values to your life. Period. And we can go there, we can talk about it, we can do all this thing, what we know, but when a relationship add value to your life, you benefit from it. But the sad thing is, it's up to you on the other end to make sure that the other person in a relationship is receiving the same value that you're getting from it. Because if we really be honest, there's a lot of relationships that we are connected with right now that we are benefiting more from the relationship than it's not mutually beneficial to the other person. And likewise, we find ourselves on the other side to where they're benefiting more than we are. Now, sometimes in relationships, you're going to be on a continuum where sometimes you'll benefit more, the other person won't benefit as much. But it should always swing close back to the middle to where you're finding balance in that, right? And you're able to communicate what you need from that relationship, right? But many people don't care. As long as they're getting what they want, they look at it for what they want. They are as satisfied as possible and don't care about the other person. And if that is you, and if you find yourself in that position to where you find yourself, if you find yourself in that position to where you are benefiting more in the relationships, and you have not taken time to conduct an inventory to realize that the other individuals or the other party is not benefiting the same at a mutual level, then and you're not willing to do anything about it, and you're comfortable with it, you need to check your motives, and you need to check your heart in it. Because then now you're moving on to the realm of where you're using somebody else. And I will tell you, karma is real. Whatever you reap, whatever you sow, you will reap. And I will tell you, and it may seem like you're getting over in that moment, but eventually karma will happen, right? And you will reap what you sowed. You sowed using somebody will use you. And you'll find yourself vulnerable in a situation where you'll feel like you're in a good situation and you get used and your heart broken, all because you chose to use somebody else and weren't considerate about it. So it is so imperative that we approach it that way. It's so imperative that when we look at it and we realize it's not always about you getting your way and what you want in relationships. It's not always about it. I never said it never was about it. I said it's not always about it, right? And that's something that we really need to look at. That's something that we need to examine and take inventory of our relationships and start to look at it and see, like, well, is it really mutually beneficial for me? And then watch this. Sometimes relationships may not, the benefit may not be as favorable as we may have wanted it to be, but if it is communicated, the motives are communicated and things are communicated in the relationship, it is the respect is there, then guess what? It can that relationship can be mended, or there's a level of understanding that relationship can continue to go on. But a lot of relationships, especially in professional relationships, things aren't communicated right correctly, and people don't communicate correctly, so it leads to a level of distrust, and relationships erode away, all because we couldn't clearly communicate the things that will be mutually beneficial in those relationships. And the reality is that is on the individuals, especially those in a position of authority or those in a position of decision making. That's on them to rectify. That is on them. Robert said, I don't have balance in most of my relationships. However, I am fixing that now, which is the hard part. But I'm dealing with it. Yes. And Robert, I would say this, right? We have to often take inventory of relationships, right? Because and I talked about it a few weeks ago. You know, it's okay. You don't have to explain, you know, your no. And I'm at a space right now where I find out that, you know, I'm getting more and more comfortable with saying no, because I realize that by me saying no, that's me protecting my peace. That's me protecting my resources. That's me protecting my emotional state, because we can be a person that we can go into a relationship and have the expectation that the other person is in at the same level, is all in like we're in. But reality is many times they're not. They're there because they like what they can get from the relationship. That they may like you as a person, but they're not willing to give of themselves the same way that you are. So you have to check that. And by you taking inventory and realize that, they get you to a space to where you'll learn how to protect your peace and protect the relationship. Because guess what? Sometimes you'll learn that the people that are so willing, the people that people would love to benefit from you, that aren't willing to give to you what they can benefit from you. Facts. I have to say lots of give and take and putting the others before oneself. Yes, that's a lot of that, right? A lot of that giving and taking and putting somebody before oneself. And I would tell you, if you honestly sit down and have a mindset to put the other person before yourself in a relationship, right? Or have an agape love, or love as if, you know, that the biblical love, as far as with, you know, consider somebody before yourself. Um, if you keep that at the forefront, at the foundation of your relationship, it can be those relationships that add value to your life. But you have to manage that, right? You can't get in there if you're always receiving in a relationship and things are favorable to you in a relationship. Ask yourself, am I providing the same thing back to the other person? Don't just take it for granted. Don't just take that for granted, because I would tell you many times the other person is considering you so that you can benefit. But what are you genuinely considering them, and what are you genuinely doing to make sure they are good? Because it's always about, it's not just about taking, it's about giving too. It is, period. So, man, I just want to thank you guys so much for rocking with your boy tonight. Really enjoyed this conversation. I hope this conversation was helpful, because sometimes you just got to take inventory. We are selfish by nature. We are selfish by nature, and we can continue to act like we're not, but we are. And until we take inventory, especially going into relationships, of what am I willing to consistently give, or what am I willing to consistently consider the other person? If we don't do that, we will find ourselves in position of where we're always in receive mode, and it always becomes always about us getting our way. And I would tell you, with those interaction right there, you will find yourself alone, and you will burn so many bridges in those relationships in which you think you have, all because you yourself considered it was all about you, and you never took the time to consider the other person and what they're actually getting from you, not what you think you are offering. Because what you think you're offering is oftentimes not equal to what somebody is giving. Period. Robert said, yes, it was. Oh, very information. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, man. Listen, it's just I was sitting down thinking, and I was talking, and I seen a clip, and it prompted me to have this conversation. Because in the clip, I saw a clip, and it was a conversation about conditional, something being done conditionally based in a relationship. And you know, and and if we think about it, especially with men and women, and you have this dialogue or dynamic of, you know, you have a lot of women that say, you know, I'll submit to a man if he show me that he can lead and provide and do all these things. And that is conditioned. They're willing to do something based off of the condition of them being shown. Well, if you flip that on the other side, and a man said, well, I love a woman, or I provide for her if she showed me that she is somebody that I should love, if she showed me that she's lovable, if she showed me that she's somebody that I should be able to take care of. You know, think about that. And we often don't like to do that, because we like to set certain things and certain things, and put things in the atmosphere that is just not wrong, that are just not right as far as in its dynamic. But if we go into a relationship and think about it, it's not always about you. It's not always about you. Sometimes it will be, but it's not always about you getting your way. Because what is a relationship if only one person getting their way? It's not a relationship. That's a transaction for somebody. That's a transaction for somebody, and that you're benefiting from. And if you continue to pull out, withdraw, and never deposit, you're going to have a deficit. And many times the people that are the ones benefiting from it, they aren't considering that other person. They're not looking at what the other person is bringing. They don't care about what their sacrifices for them to do. They don't care about the decisions that they make to make sure that they have. They don't care, because guess what? They are benefiting from it, and that's all they're concerned with. And as soon as you bring it up to them, they want to act like they want to play the victim, and like they are done so wrong and the other person did them so wrong. But then if you ask them what they're doing for the other person, they'll be the ones quickly to overvalue what they bring to the table. They'll do it quick, fast, in a hurry. But man, I thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys rocking with your boy. Make sure you go check me out at my social media platforms, on YouTube at The Conversation 98, on TikTok, The Conversation 98, on Twitter at 98 Conversation, Facebook, The Conversation 98, and on TikTok at The Conversation _98. Hey, make sure you like and you share this. Look forward to it. Looking forward to the next week's conversation. You guys have a blessed and wonderful weekend. God bless.